republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call.
Member Stiddick?
Here.
Member Gordon?
Here.
Chair Wise?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, great. All right, next thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda. They have a motion to approve.
I move.
Second?
I'm.
So moved. Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. And we don't have any audience comments, it looks like, today. All right, and then I guess the action items today is a fee study presentation and recommendations. So with that,
Yes. Thank you. Today we have Christina from Raftellus with us, and she's going to go through our fee study as it stands right now. This is only for the recreation portion of the fees, the recreation and aquatics portion of the fees. The city is undergoing a full fee study, which will include multiple departments, including community development, but those will not be discussed here today. This is just for the parks and recreation fees. So I'd like to introduce Christina, and she will go ahead and get started with our presentation. What we are really looking for today is just member input as the process stands right now, not necessarily for the fee specific, but as the process stands and how we're going to be moving forward to completion with this project. So go ahead, Christina, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mandy. As she said, my name is Christina Pinchilla, and I work for Raftellus, and we have been hired by the city to do a really thorough fee study, as Mandy mentioned, for all of the various fees, including parks and recreation. So it is great to present to you all today. I am happy to be here. I wish I could be in St. Pete Beach, but I am in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I work sort of all over the country, lots of work in Florida, but we work really all over the country with municipalities and utilities on all sorts of various fees. So that is sort of my role here. But the objective of this project has really been to right-size you all's fees based on the true cost of providing service. They're really, the methodology of how your fees are where they are today is sort of unknown. That's one of the things we discovered and through the course of this project. So we really wanted to have a specific methodology based on industry standards to really evaluate the fees. And so I'm going to go through some of that today. We obviously wanted to identify opportunities for additional revenue and in some cases consolidation of fees because there are a lot of them. If you've seen the fee schedule, it is quite lengthy. So, you know, in some cases it makes sense to consolidate fees, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, we always want to work towards long-term sustainability for parks and rec operation and maintenance activities. And, you know, things like ACs breaking happen. So we want to make sure that, you know, that you will have the revenue available to fix those things when they happen. And then another big part and objective of this project was to benchmark with neighboring peer communities. So we looked at 10 communities plus specifically for Parks and Rec, we looked at the Suncoast YMCA's as a benchmark. That way you can kind of, you know, it's not all about just making sure that you're getting cost recovery. You have competitors, obviously. And so if you're not staying within a range of your peer communities, people will go elsewhere to use Parks and Rec. So that's an important part of this as well. So just to talk a little bit about your current fees and structure for a few minutes. So right now, for most fees, not all, and we will talk about this a little bit later, there is a distinction between in fees between residents and non-residents. And that is very typical in most communities. You all obviously pay the local taxes in St. Beach, residents do, so we want to offer, because you're paying the bulk of the taxes, a discount for residents and have the non-residents that are coming in as guests to pay a little bit more. So as part of this, we wanted to look at initially maintaining the existing ratio of resident versus non-resident fees, to prioritize benefits, again, for St. Pete Beach taxpayers. And so we wanted to apply these adjustments consistently. And again, documentation related to the initial establishment of these fees was not available. So we don't know what methodology was used originally. So we really needed to connect, in order to make sure we're covering the actual cost of service, we needed to find a way to connect the fees into expenses and revenues within the city's budget. Because there's so many fees, we couldn't do that on an individual fee basis. So the better way and the more efficient way to handle this is to really put each fee into a service category. So we created 7 service areas for the parks and recreation fees, and those are listed here. So each fee is connected into one of these service areas, fee categories. Pool, recreation programs, the camp, gym, facility rentals, special events, and beach weddings. Then we worked with city staff, mainly Mandy, to sort of connect those things together, to connect the budget expenditures and the revenues. So we used percentage of time of department expenses to establish the cost to provide these services from the recreation department. That way we were able to take the total revenue from the fees by each of one of those 7, right? We have 7 categories. So the revenue for each of those categories divided by the expense for each of those categories. And that gave us a current cost recovery. And then once we had the current cost recovery, we wanted to establish a target cost recovery. So that for this piece, there are industry standards based on 2 different models. So we have the American Planning Association and the National Recreation and Park Association models. They recommend, it's called a cost recovery pyramid, and fees are tiered based upon the benefit of the service. So we have 3 tiers. Tier 1 offers the maximum community benefit. Thinking about, and we're going to go into more detail on which each of these look like. So, just hang tight. I'm going to give you examples here in just a minute. Thinking parks, trails, open space. In these cases, we have a 0 to 20% cost recovery, meaning they're primarily tax funded. Those that fall into tier 2 sort of offer a mixed benefit. And so our target was a 70% cost recovery, meaning you're sharing the cost. The person is paying a little bit and their taxes are paying a little bit. And then tier 3 are for individual benefit. You're thinking private lessons, private, like a private gym, session, facility rentals of the ballroom, things that, adult leagues, adult basketball, things like that. Those have only really an individual benefit. So we are looking at 100% cost recovery for those. And that because they're going to be fully user funded. Okay, so I'm going to go into those a little bit more because this is sort of the crux of the whole thing of how we're assigning fees. So things in that tier 1, again, have a high community benefit. You think about things like playgrounds here. They're open to everyone. They offer great things for your community. Open space, environmental quality, high quality of life. So really, you don't want to charge fees for these things. St. Pete Beach doesn't currently charge fees for them, and most places do not. So that aligns with the industry standard, which is a 0 to 20% cost recovery. Is that everybody understanding that?
Yes.
Okay. Tier 2 is that sort of mixed community benefit. So the industry standard cost recovery for this tier is in the 30 to 70% range. For the purposes of this study, we looked at 70%. So it's examples of some of the fees, the Parks and Rec fees that we assign to this tier are day passes, camps, after-school programs, pool fees, youth basketball or other sport leagues, your special events, breakfast with Santa. We want there are, they are, not open necessarily to everyone, but they are providing some service that should be funded partially by tax funding. And then finally is that tier 3 that really just have an individual benefit. So again, we were looking at the industry standard here is between 70 to 100%, but we were looking at 100% for purposes of this study. And this is your facility rentals, your ballrooms, park rentals, the patios, private trainers, fitness lessons, and adult sport leagues. So those are really the 3 tiers. We took current cost recovery. Remember, we calculated that at first, and then we're going to shoot for a target. Of course, when you're going from sort of an unknown methodology and you're saying, now I want to get to 100% cost recovery, that in some cases can cause a really large need for increase in fees. So in order to sort of mitigate what we would call the sticker shock, right? You don't want to go from a $1 fee to a $20 fee to use the gym. Okay, that's just an example. It's not necessarily what it was, but we want to then look at, especially for those in the tier 3 that we're trying to reach 100%, phasing in the increase over a 3-year period. So it's not just you're getting to 100% cost recovery on year 1. That way the city can choose to sort of phase it in. Right now we have it default set to a 3-year increase, but certainly it could be 5-year, it could, even farther than that. It is so that it does have some built-in flexibility in our financial model. And, if you can, allows for adjustments based upon the specific program. Obviously, if a specific fee is not going to be used if it's over a certain amount, we wanted to have some flexibility in here. So the purpose of the phase-in approach is to allow for that rate to get to full cost recovery over a certain number of years. And then again, I talked a little bit about the benchmarking, but here are the communities that we benchmarked again, and again with the YMCA as well. So the purpose of benchmarking is to consider the rate adjustments we're looking at within the broader context of other peer communities and make sure that you all can remain competitive. Again, because we do want residents and non-residents to obviously use your park and rec facilities and not go elsewhere. So we're making sure that our proposed rates are within the market range. We really want to say, okay, well, cost recovery, as an example, says that this rate should be $10, but Largo is only charging $7. Do we really want to raise it? People aren't going to then come to our gym. They're going to go to the neighboring gym, to save some dollars. So we really wanted this as sort of a check against the cost recovery, if that makes sense. Okay, so with that being said, we came up with a set of recommended fee options. So 6 options are available for each fee. Again, regardless of tier, we provided the full cost recovery in year 1. Okay, then we looked at that phased in cost recovery. What would happen, regardless of tier, if we spread the increase over 3 years? Then we used our benchmark data to set the rate at a max identified peer rate. So make it like this is Treasure Island is only charging $5. That's what we set in as a benchmark max. Then we set an override rate to allow for, flexibility again. It's a specific percent increase. I think you all know your community better than we do in many cases. So sometimes you just needed to have okay, this cost recovery is too much, or even the benchmark seems too much. I don't think people are going to spend more than X dollars. So this is a way to sort of, any way you can override the rate. And then the next one is just to keep the current rate if you felt like there was no reason to change the existing fee. And then the final option is to either consolidate or remove. There were some cases, as an example, for a facility rental that's no longer being rented. So we really wanted to remove that out of the fee schedule. It's not currently being charged like it was when the fee schedule was originally developed, so it makes sense to remove it. There's a lot of fees for like swim team lane rentals at various levels and costs, and we wanted to consolidate some of that. So that's what that option is for. Again, the financial model does currently maintain the existing ratio of resident to non-resident, but in some cases, as I mentioned, there wasn't a difference. So the resident and the non-resident rate are the same. So these are just a few examples of instances where the resident and non-resident fees are the same. So it's a lot of pool, swim team rentals, fitness classes, and swim lessons, and a few other things. But one of the questions I think Mandy wanted to discuss today was, does the board want to create a non-resident fee for these? So a difference where the non-residents would pay slightly more. And then obviously we wanted some input from you all on those cost allocation breakdowns. So those are sort of the two main things we wanted to talk about with you all today and hear from you about, I think, today, with some final feedback maybe by next week if possible. So I've talked a lot. I'm sure you all have questions, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Christina. This is, the point of this is to try to consolidate as many fees as we can. We do have a lot, and it's an extensive list. You'll see it here. There's some things that we no longer offer. There's some things that we no longer do, but if we can consolidate some, that would be great. And then if we can reach, 100% cost recovery in especially like the tier 3 items, that's kind of our goal. That's where we're heading with this direction, and it may not be an immediate 1 year 100% cost recovery. It could be a 3-year 100%. We finally hit it in 3 years. And then we can look at fees too, such as, do we want to hit 100% as in for the non-resident and then still subsidize resident fees? So that's kind of, everything's in play still at this point. We just want to make sure that you all are good so far with the methodology that we've been following to get to this point. So. Questions?
I guess first of all, it's good to have a methodology. Now we have a basic understanding of the path forward. I'm just curious, what did the benchmark show? I mean, how are we doing compared to our constituents out there, or competitors, per se, in the market?
It really was variable by fee. In some cases, you were very competitive and lower than your competitors. And I definitely think there's some good room to raise your rates up a little bit to get additional revenue and still remain competitive. But then in some cases, you all were higher. But overall, I would say a majority of you all were lower than your competitors.
And any correlation between the higher fees and the amount of participation or rental or what have you? Does that make sense?
It does. Like, if we were charging more, would we have less participation? Is that?
Or are we charging more now, and as a result of that, we're not getting, it's our percent of usage or what have you, is not that high.
Christina, when we were looking at the fees, would that have been included in that? I mean, it's kind of in what we had talked about for our cost recovery. So like those numbers were kind of, factored in when we were going over and doing the percentage of cost recovery. So I would say that right now we're probably in line with pretty much the cost recovery model that we're going with, that it really wouldn't have a direct correlation to it, but.
On each tier, is tier 3, are we higher than other people, or tier 1 or tier 2?
Christina, do you know if we did by
You
tiers?
know what I'm saying?
I don't have it by, like, I can look. I mean, I can pull up the model and take a look. But overall, I think you all were below on most fees. You are below, regardless of tier.
Oh, okay.
You are below most communities.
Hey, Christina, is there any visibility into the success that those other communities are having as relates to the fees that they're charging, i.e. the percent of participation and pool,
It's hard for us to. We can benchmark and get their fee amounts. You can get through ordinance and other things. We could get their data about the fees that they're charging, but we really didn't have a way to collect their like usage
I was
numbers.
kind of curious. If
Um,
they're charging X, and as a result of that, they've got good participation, right? They've got
Yeah.
residents, non-residents are using the service. Okay.
Mandy, question for you.
Mhm.
You book a lot of the reservations for the classes, and do you have do you keep data, and do you have a general feel for what percentage of people using those services are non-residents?
We do, yes.
Can you give me a ballpark? Is it 10%, 90%?
I would say it's more non-resident than it is resident. I don't have the exact percentage off the top of my brain, but
Yep.
it would be more non-resident than resident for the class participation. Special events, when we do special events, it's more residents versus non-residents, and a lot of the special events that we charge for, such as like the Breakfast with Santa and things like that. And then the pool usage, I would say, is probably a pretty good mix of both resident, non-resident, probably more so equal than the recreation classes per se.
Okay. When we include the peer services, some of the St. Petersburg is such a large city; it's not really a peer, and yet their pools are the closest pools to ours. So it might be helpful to include at least those. YMCA, there not really isn't one close by. And that's, yeah, that model is way different, and pretty expensive. So, but the other might want to include those area pools.
I think that when we did look at Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that when we did look at the fees in the surrounding cities, the St. Petersburg pools were included. Do you know if that's off the top of your head? And then our next closest YMCA is that, the large YMCA that is on First Avenue South, or,
Right.
down in St. Pete. So I think that was definitely looked at.
Okay.
But
Yeah, and the YMCA we were really using as a benchmark for summer camps. That was like the main
Okay.
use of YMCA was really because they have a very comparable summer camp program, which is obviously a big thing that St. Pete Beach does as well. So I think very important.
Are most of these non-residents local? I mean, local to St. Pete, or where are they coming from?
yeah, they're local. I mean, a lot of our non-residents are Treasure Island and South Pasadena. So, I mean, they're directly adjacent to us. Yeah, they're yeah. Yeah. Isla, we have a lot of people from Isla and Tierra Verde, so.
And we're not overloading or excluding anybody by allowing them to come in, so it's no loss to us adding an extra person in.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And, we had some caveats on the selection of the benchmarking, remembering that they have to be for all the fees, not just Parks and Rec. But we wanted them to have had a recent fee update within the last 5 years. So that was sort of another thing that really we were trying to get at, was that they had also gone through a similar process. So their fees weren't really outdated, so that we felt like they could be comparable.
Christina, can you tell me what or do you have a feel for cities around here and even around the nation that you've consulted for? Is there a general rule for desire to collect 100% or to give everything away free among the other cities that you've consulted for?
Yes. So I think everyone is attempting to find a balance. Because I think if you shoot too high in cost recovery at times, it can really reduce your usage. And so therefore, then you're really not getting any revenue. So everybody is sort of looking to hit that balance, I think, where they do all want some additional revenue. Everybody needs revenue, I think, right now. But keeping it within reason and with these checks. And I think that's what we're trying to do here too, is making sure that it's, we want to get as close to cost recovery where it is reasonable to within reason, so that you're still getting some use and revenue. So that's the purpose of the, the many different options. We say it's, you know, we want, in my world, it's like, I look at data, I want to look at numbers, I want to have clear, right, percentage and methodology. I'm a utility finance person, that's my way. But in these cases with these fees, it's a little bit of science and data and a little bit of like, we call it the magic, where you're just having to like use reason and thought, and you know, it can't just be we're going to get to 100% and that's it. We have to have, you know, some type of limit and cap on that too. So
I mean, there's no way
It's
that we could
challenging.
ever charge, you know, a $20 per person per class for something, just because we know that that's going to be the 100% cost recovery. So it's got to be within reason, and that's why the benchmarking communities and some of these other, you know, things have been considered when looking at what percentage we want to get to within the certain tiers, because each tier is going to be different as well. We're not going to hit 100% in every tier, but if we can hit 100% in a non-resident rental capacity, as opposed to, you know, a 30% cost recovery in a class, I mean, that's doable. That's something that's a little bit more feasible than if we were to try to go 100% across the board. That's not going to ever happen.
So what, from a next steps perspective, Christine and Mandy, what do y'all need from us? I mean, you got a couple items here. What,
right, so I think it's by Mandy and the city manager and city staff, we're really looking for buy-in on like the target cost allocation methodology, that the tiers make sense to you, that you're sort of agreeing with like what should be tax funded versus sort of individually funded. And in a similar way, sort of, do we want to keep the resident, non-resident breakdown as it is? Do we want to make some adjustments to those? Because like Mandy said, we could sort of keep it as it is. We could add, increase, let me go back to that. Oh, it's wanting to go the wrong way. We could add, you know, for these that are listed here, we could add a higher non-resident fee, or even for the fees that are existing, you know, right now we have the ratio maintained, but we could certainly, instead of increasing resident, we could just do an increase on the non-resident side and try and get more cost recovery from the non-residents. So there are some options here. So I think just your thoughts and opinions on that part. So the targets and the non-resident resident fee breakdown.
I would be really uncomfortable bringing somebody here, and I mean, they're crying about $1 over everything. So if I'm asking somebody from Gulfport or that to come to a class, it's like, well, mine's 5 and yours is 6. I don't know. It just seems like really, really, really petty. I would like it very amiable to my friends and family to participate in the things my hometown has to offer. That's how I feel very strongly about that.
And years ago, I will tell you that we did have a resident, non-resident fee for classes. And just for that reason, just how you explained it, it was difficult to entice people from the surrounding communities to come in and participate in those classes. So we did see some lower participation during those times. Now that we've streamlined it and we've gone to one fee for classes, now it doesn't need to be a one fee for everything. It's just one fee for classes. We've seen increased participation over the years.
And also, what about, like, if I bring my family to the pool?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are they considered non-resident, or are they considered resident?
See, at that
I don't
point
know,
too, yeah, that could be a little mix of both, because we do have a resident and a non-resident fee for at the pool. So, I mean, if you were to come in, you would be charged as the resident. Your family members may be charged as a non-resident. But right now, it's a nominal fee. It's not a huge increase if we kept it as is. I want to say at some point we decided that the fees for a non-resident were going to be, don't quote me on this, but about 20% higher than what a resident would pay. So, like I said, over the years we've done away with a lot of the non-resident fees that we felt that weren't working in order to try to gain participation. So that's where we're at with this.
this is mostly pool access, right? You're talking about?
And classes.
And like fitness classes, our fitness classes are all one rate.
The fitness class is pretty full.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a silver sneakers class that we run about 60 people per class.
Pretty, with it.
Yeah, it's gone through some really heavy participation. And I have talked to people in Gulfport or that want to bring their friends and have brought their friends,
Right.
especially women.
Yeah.
We're the ones who mostly participate in these exercise classes.
Yeah, I'd say we're probably 75% female in some of these fitness classes that we offer. But
And one of the benefits of having more people is that you spread the cost of the instructor.
correct.
And if you have 20% less people paying, then we're essentially paying more. We're losing money on the class.
Right.
And we're not, until we overload the classes, having extra people come in is no big deal. If the pool becomes so crowded that residents can't get in, then,
Yeah, that's my thing there.
but there's no danger of that.
If we're 110% of capacity and residents can't get in because we got a lot of
Right.
residents in, the fee structure is the same, well, that's an issue, but if it's not, then, I mean, I like, when you're working off this Silver Sneakers, whatever, more energy is a good thing.
Sure.
Having a lot of people there versus not having a
And-
room, right?
Yeah.
Meeting,
Get more participation on a weekly basis if a lot of people show up, I think.
So if we were to get into a situation, so in the past too, we've had issues with camp, and camp would fill up immediately, and it would be, what we've done in the past is we've done a resident priority for camp. So is that something that your recommendation would be? So if we know that there's a program such as our camps, we do a resident priority registration and then a non-resident to fill in the gaps if we have a cutoff. So I mean, camp, we only take 100 people, 100 kids in a summer. For our after-school program, we take 75. Our after-school program isn't really resident, non-resident dependent because it's based off of the number of kids over at Gulf Beaches. That's where we pick up. So is that a recommendation that the board would like to move forward with as, go back to resident priority for those classes and activities that we know will fill out and hit max capacity?
yes.
I mean, it's St. Pete Beach, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
should be given the priority, I would.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
It's unfortunate, but,
Well, no, it's not. It's ours.
well, it's unfortunate there's not enough room for everybody.
Oh,
Right.
true.
You've got to prioritize and obviously prioritize.
So along those lines, I'd like to make a comment for Christina. I don't know how much awareness you have about, is she still on?
Yeah,
Okay.
Christine's.
I don't know how much awareness you have about how things are funded and paid for in the Penny for Pinellas program, but our community center where these classes, many of the classes are held, and our pool were paid for by the Penny for Pinellas, 1% sales tax that was on countywide. And basically, I won't say we got it for free, but we got it. Gulfport didn't get a pool. We have one. I'm happy to share ours with them. And then you also have to consider that we're not paying the amortization or paying down bonds or anything for that. So there's a huge benefit. And that's, so when you start charging non-residents for something they essentially help pay for.
Well, the construction of the pool, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, the whole pool is free. It came from Penny for Pinellas. The entire community center, not the,
Well, not free,
Not-
because
Yeah.
somebody did pay for it.
Well-
Not the
No,
free.
I understand what you're saying.
we didn't pay a separate tax for that. We chose to apply that money for recreation. And that was a choice. We could have bought trucks with it.
Did the other communities choose to take that 1% and apply it towards something else?
Yes, that's exactly how it works.
So our decision was pools.
Yeah, I heard,
St. Petersburg's
I
also-
heard at one time it was contentious, there was a lot of,
Right,
just because we are a beach community and there's a pool.
right.
It's one of those things. I have heard discussions.
So when we look at, we're very fortunate, so when we look at costs of operating the pool, we're not paying for the pool, we're just operating it.
But the cost is very high.
It's extremely high. Pool is a loss leader.
It's unbelievable.
If you charge what it actually costs, it would probably be $20 per visit or more.
It is really, I know.
But it's a
Yeah.
gem. It's why people put pools in their backyard. They're very
It's
expensive.
beautiful.
And I don't see, when I've been there, the hours of operation and I just don't see it always being a moneymaker.
Oh, no, it's a money loser. It never makes money.
Yeah, it's just,
But that's okay. None of them make money. Pools lose money nationwide.
You know,
Right, Christina?
in some cases, reasonably, you have to know in every case, you're just not going to get to 100%. And that's okay, because again, it's providing such a wonderful community benefit. So, yeah, I think it's, it's again, striking a balance. In some cases, not every program is going to be a revenue maker, so.
And one question on setting fees, if we're going to lose a lot of money per visitor, if we lost more, would we get more visitors? Would we get more use out of it? Do you understand what I'm saying? If it were free?
Yeah.
I'm not saying
That's right.
that making things free is ideal. I'm just saying that and that may be something you've run into in other places where they just say, let's make it free.
well, I think you could go about it a little bit differently. I think that instead of, there seems to be, just from my little bit of knowledge, there seems to be, like everything else, like groups that kind of control
Yes.
the whole thing, and it's
Shuffleboard.
whether it's old ladies in menopause or kids or whatever. I think since it's not a moneymaker and somebody really having that job, they can make it more amiable for all different groups.
Sure.
Yeah, instead of the groups that seem to control.
This
And
is,
like I said, I hardly ever go there, but from what I've seen.
and that's what Christina can offer to us. You've seen so much around the country, and I would love to get your feedback or thoughts on or comparisons. Here's how it works here, where they don't charge, or they charge $1 to use the pool, and here's what happens when they charge $10 to use the pool. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, and we have that built into the model. Well, I can't say around the country, but I can say the 10 communities plus the YMCA that we looked at. So, yeah, we definitely did a local review. I would never say most places do not go free. That is very, very rare.
You've seen free around the beach.
Yeah, we've seen free.
So am I hearing too more from the board that, do we prefer that benchmark rate, kind of seeing what our surrounding cities are charging and get similar with what they're charging? Not across the board, but do you think that that's, in our model here, when we're looking at the benchmark and looking at what these cities are charging, do we think that we want to get near that, or do we want to kind of look at all of the other aspects to this, such as the override rate, which would be that specific increase for maximum flexibility, or is that more of how you're leaning towards? What are your thoughts on that?
My thought is that when I think of the city of Treasure Island, the city of Clearwater, city of Largo, as peers, they all have different objectives. And we should do our own thing. We should not target being in the median of what they're setting. I think that if we should look at other factors as more important, such as utilization, and if we're trying to recover our fees and reduce our utilization by doing so, what have we accomplished? And just to get in to be in the benchmark or the median with others, that would be my thought on that.
Okay.
Well said. I think one of the things that benchmark does do is, if we're way too high, and that's then we can start, okay, wait a second, let's reevaluate it, but.
Yeah.
So our priorities then are going to be the resident priority for classes or activities that fill, and then looking at utilization over some of these other, the fee options, some of the other fee options. Utilization is like our priority. We don't want to lose the utilization of our facilities, our classes, and all of that. Is that where we're going with
You were
this?
saying residents for like the camps.
For the activities that fill, yes.
Classes for it to remain.
Yep, to remain open. But the activities that fill, which would only be our childcare programs really, that will fill and have a max based on licensing requirements, so that's why we max.
I agree with that. I mean, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
I
And that really is the magic of it. We look at all the numbers and benchmark and all of that, and it's really, you really you have to weigh a lot of different factors, and that's why there's so many options here for the recommendations. Because, like, okay, I mean, if we, Rob, tell us you've been hired to come in and get us max revenue, and if that, we could certainly give you that number, but then if no one's using the class, then you're getting zero revenue, right? So there does have to be a really good balance among these various options. And the last thing I'll say is it's important to note that there isn't going to be a benchmark for every single fee, because some things are like aquathon class, you know what I mean? Not every community has a comparable benchmark, but I think for the bigger things there are, like the rentals, camps, things like that. So, the bigger ticket items, I think, gym rentals, all of that type of thing, classes, some of the classes have comparable benchmarks, so.
Okay.
Great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
All right,
Okay.
we'll hear
All right, so I think that, what we're going to do is we're going to still continue to work with Christina to finalize our fee recommendations, and then it'll be brought to commission for approval when we take the entire fee study to commission. I believe, Christina, do we have a date, maybe end of February, are we thinking for that?
It's going to be early March.
Okay, early March. So,
So we need to wrap up these models. That's why we requested feedback sort of by the end of next week. We need to wrap up these models by sort of early next month so that we can start putting together the presentation and things. So
great, so staff will continue to work with Christina to finalize the fees. They'll be brought to commission and added into our ordinance, and then at that point, we'll be moving forward with our new fees and see how everything works out. So your input really has, provided us a good guideline to, this resident priority, anything that fills, and then, really keeping in mind utilization of the facility and not, losing any of that. So, there any final thoughts on the fee study?
I just had one
No.
question on the facility rentals and such.
Mhm.
How are we doing on utilization on that? I mean, I think it was down after obviously COVID and all that. And
We've been down for a couple of years now because we've had some facility maintenance issues too. We've been down with AC for, so really we can't even look at the last 2 years because of the storms, and then we had AC issues the year prior to that. But before that, we're bouncing back right now. We're kind of back to what we were about 3 years ago in our facility rentals. And I want to say we average about 25 to 30 rentals in a year. We were doing more. We were booking at one point Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the community center, but down to one building. We're still very limited on what we can do with our childcare program. So we're booking right now Saturdays. I think this month might have been a little light, but starting again in March, we're booking every Saturday. April, I believe, is booked every Saturday. So we've got a few solid months coming up at the community center of rentals. And then the Warren Webster is picking up, and we're working on a full marketing campaign to try to increase rentals at,
yeah, that's kind of where I was going, the marketing, because those are big hits. If we get
Yeah.
$2,700 for a rental, I mean, that offsets a lot of the costs associated with the
It does.
programs.
it does. Yeah, it does.
Marketing's huge, because if people don't know about it, they're not gonna, I mean, where else would you want to get, have your wedding than that beautiful basin out?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. The facility sells itself, but I mean, we need to help it along a little bit with some marketing, so we are working towards that.
Yeah, cool.
I find it just, my son, like 15 years ago, got married in Clearwater Recreational Center, and it was like $700. I mean, and it was so beautiful. It's, right around the Palm Pavilion up there, and it's gorgeous, but it was only $700, and then we were just, got a deal.
Yeah, it's a bargain. That's a bargain.
A lot of demand, I mean, back then too. Pick a date.
Well, I don't know. They were so amiable, like their staff and everything. Like if it was 8 to 4 or I don't know the hours. It was like, oh, we don't care if your family stays longer. We'll come back and help you all clean up. It was kind of like that, But that was 15 years ago. People
Yeah,
behave differently.
yeah. We were probably like that about 15 years ago as well, so, yeah, it was loosey-goosey back then, but, yeah, so we're just tightening up a little bit.
All right, you got anything else? We ready to adjourn?
That's it.
No,
Thank you.
I want to talk about something else. Why are you laughing? We can't talk outside of here.
Yes. Well, this meeting was specifically for our fee study, so is it something that pertains to our fee study?
It's not.
Okay. Do we want to touch base after the meeting?
We can't.
Okay.
We're not allowed to talk to each other.
Christina, you can, thank you, Christina.
Thank you very much, it was fantastic.
You're so welcome. Hope you all have a wonderful week.
Thank
I'll talk to
you.
talk to you later, Meeting.
Thanks.
We've only taken 45 minutes. Do you mind staying another 5 minutes? Okay. Shuffleboard. The meeting that you put together and held at the Warren Webster was spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
That was, Mandy put together a meeting when she and Camden and
Laura.
Cora,
from
right.
Community
It
Development.
had a great presentation and question and answer, and it was terrific and attracted a huge group. I say huge, I mean 40 people or 50 people is a huge group, including the shuffleboard people. I didn't know they existed. I've been looking for them for a year. And
How do you find them, by the way?
you have a meeting.
Yeah. They're more seasonal. So right now you'll see them every Tuesday morning. They're Tuesday right now from 10, well, really from about 10 until 2, I want to say, at the shuffleboard courts. And they're a great group, but they are pretty seasonal, but they're there January through April, consistently on Tuesdays.
So the discussion that I wanted to have is that the shuffleboard and the shuffleboard building, which is a whole nother story, but the shuffleboard courts and the shuffleboard building is like its own little island. It's nothing that we've ever talked about. It doesn't show up in budgets. It doesn't show up in work orders. It doesn't show up. And if you look on our website, it doesn't exist, the city's website. If you do shuffleboard and you get nothing. They have a private Facebook group you have to be invited to join. I've asked to get on it. I met the shuffleboard people, and they actually they maintain the shuffleboard court. You call them courts, lanes, courts. They maintain the shuffleboard courts themselves. They have machinery to wax it. The actual shuffleboard courts are in horrible condition. They need probably an $8,000.
Closer to 20.
It's period. How much?
20, probably closer to 20, 24.
I'm terrible with inflation. But
You can't put hardwoods in your house
Yeah.
for $10,000.
No. Yeah.
actually, I'm getting to the point where you just need to add a zero at the end to a lot of the things the numbers I come up with. But yeah. So and it just so it's just there. And here's this $20,000 potential cost to be used by 20 people. The building itself is a historical building which was damaged in the hurricane, and the reason it was damaged was because this group, voluntarily and using their own materials, added walls to an open-air pavilion. And it was one of the walls that they added that was pushed in by the storm surge. So our city engineers and people decided the building needs to be, well, initially they said, we'll put it out for bids to fix it, and the bids came in way too high.
Correct.
And there were like 20 or 30 bidders, or people showed up to look at it, and I thought, well, is there a mechanism where we could just take our hammers and go out and fix it ourselves? And I think the answer is no.
Correct.
So we're going to demolish a historical building. That pavilion was brought over on a barge because there were no bridges in 1920. It was brought over on a barge from Gulfport. It's a historical building. We're going to demolish it. And we're going to build a new building. We have plenty of money to do it. We have, I think the money is completely paid for by insurance. So there's plenty of money to do it. But I listen to these things and I think, this is crazy. And I think it exists in a closet or a hole somewhere in the city where no one actually has their finger on it. I'm not saying that you should or should not. But it's amazing to me that things like that can exist. An entire substructure of people who are using our facility exist, and we know virtually nothing about it and have virtually no control over it. And so I mention this because the good news is I finally met them. But the bad news is we're the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and we don't know anything about a major facility in our city. So I bring that up not necessarily with recommendations or call to action, but something that I'd like for us to be thinking about. And that's may not be the only thing that we're not really involved in and aware of. And Mandy's, she used to be Parks and Rec, and so this whole thing, everything was in her purview, and now just rec. So
Yeah, for myself, yes, but our board is still Parks and Recreation. So, I mean, we do have other facilities, you know, think about our park pavilions. You know, things that we would like input on our park pavilions are, you know, maybe even, you know, the Mary Pier, you know, anything that would be considered recreational, I think would you know, fall under our purview to kind of be more aware about. You're right, the shuffleboard building has gone like kind of under the radar for a lot of years. It would be something that we definitely moving forward would want to involve you all with, and the maintenance and the upkeep of the shuffleboard courts, because that's a great group and they don't ask for a lot. They have been doing a lot of the maintenance over the years on their own. But it is, like you said, still a city facility, and it's still, you know, a part of our recreation activities. So anything that we can do to try to kind of help the shuffleboard people. And, you know, it's not just this club that uses it. We do have, you know, they have a specific closet dedicated to residents that want to go out there and use it at any time. There are people that go into that park, especially people that live in Paso Grill have gone over there and used it. The Women's Club have gone over and used that facility. So definitely it's not outside of our purview to go ahead and review every now and then.
Did they accept you on Facebook?
I haven't gotten the invite yet. I'll have to push to get it, but at least I got contact information,
There you go.
so it's a start.
It is a start.
Our dog park, our dog beach rather, which is not official, is any of that public or official or?
Once we remove the current signage and we put up the new signage, then it will be considered off-leash. So that dog beach that we have down at the end of First Avenue, we've decided that this is not an actual parcel of land. This is kind of more like a sandbar. It comes and goes depending on dredging and storms. So what we are doing is we're no longer considering that a public park. It's going to be just an open parcel of land that, like I said, it could be there, it could not be there. So any of the regulations that we have as far as the parks and dogs on leash will kind of go away. So we're working on new signage to be put out there that'll designate that dogs off leash. Use at your own risk.
Now you're up to date.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying an extra 5 minutes. And thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, call to adjournment. Is it motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All?
Aye.
Aye.